Welcome to the Will to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Will Jenkins, joined by my co host, Trent Marsh. Before we get into it, I want to make that shameless plug and ask that you rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can also use those reviews to interact with the show, or you can follow at the Will to Hunt on any social platform, and we can continue the conversation there. This is, of course, our first episode. So, Trent, welcome.
Hello.
So yeah, we're just going to kind of get into it here and go through kind of who we are, the topics we'd like to cover, some of our goals for the podcast, and with a little parting note there at the end. So I'll just jump in first with who I am. I kind of think of myself as a nobody that knows a few somebodies. I kind of started in the outdoor industry just for fun. I started the willtohunt.com in 2011. Yeah, 2011. So right at that 10 years mark. Just started writing because I wanted to, and I wasn't good enough to get published. So I published myself on the internets. And people liked it enough. So it stuck around for a while. Met Trent actually pretty early on in a previous role that he had with an outdoors brand. And I was desperate to work with people, and he was desperate enough to work with me. So that's how we met. But since then, I've got a chance to do a lot of cool stuff in the outdoor industry. I've worked with various brands and outdoor personalities. I've built websites and built, you know, I don't know. I've produced some short films and commercials. Like I said, writing, website design, anything for money. That kind of deal. So that's basically who I am, and I'll hand it over to Trent for his little intro.
The timelines actually line up pretty good because about the time you
Yeah,
were getting into it, it's about the same for me. So a little over a decade of being in the outdoor industry, I've spent a lot more time more on the brand side, working in marketing in the outdoor world. From everything from UTVs to optics to other product categories, and also do a fair bit of freelance work as well, both as a professional marketer, but also as a content generator, and have done just a little bit of everything. And like Will said, we've kind of got hooked up and connected relatively early in both of our times in the outdoor industry, and really we've kind of been talking about the idea of starting a podcast for longer than not, actually, is the
yeah,
case. And like everybody else, we kind of, COVID made it easier for everybody, and we really kind of ramped it up, and it still took
yeah,
a little while, but here we are, and
yeah,
just gonna kind of share our experiences and what we like to do, and go from there.
yeah. I mean, basically, we end up on the phone every now and then to talk about some random outdoor topic, and then go on for a half hour or so. And we're like, why don't we just record this?
Might as well just record it.
So that's kind of where we started with it. And I've always wanted to add a podcast to the Will to Hunt, but I didn't want it to just be me rambling, and I didn't necessarily
Any
have.
more than anyone else wanted it to just be you rambling
Yeah,
also.
exactly. I alone don't have that much interesting stuff to say. So it's been weird to kind of navigate that and decide what to do. And I think the two of us should make a pretty decent recording. But yeah, so our topics we're looking to cover here on the podcast are kind of broad. It's the Will to Hunt podcast, and it's largely that because that's the website I own. But while we'll have a consistent theme of hunting throughout the year, we'll also cover topics like fishing, outdoors, and cooking. And as far as hunting goes, my background is kind of scattered. I started out hunting white-tailed deer, shooting buckshot at does getting chased by dogs in central Virginia. So that's an interesting a
Just
little
like
backstory.
everyone did, right?
Right. Yeah. No one starts that way. No. Hunting with deer dogs is a big tradition in Virginia, and that's relatively rare across the country. And then I got into bow hunting when I moved to Maryland for a bit, because if you don't bow hunt, you basically don't have a season there because of the way their seasons are structured. So I got really into bow hunting, moved out here where I am now in Western Wisconsin, started getting into upland hunting, and I had closer access to spot and stalk like mule deer hunting for archery season 2. So I've kind of changed my um, preferences as far as hunting goes based on that. And over the last few years have gotten ridiculously into upland hunting and have a 1-year-old bird dog and that kind of stuff. So Trent, how your little background here in hunting?
Yeah, same thing. Kind of grew up in Northeast Indiana, and parts of the family hunted hit and miss, and really, I while I had my dad hunted some, and my grandpa did some hunting when he was younger, and some rabbits and stuff like that as he was older, it was really just something that I got bit by the bug and have really kind of had to do it myself, or seek out like-minded folks, just because I don't necessarily have that like hardcore in the field family member to really drag me around. Grandpa got me into fishing and hunting over beagles for rabbits and that kind of stuff, and did some deer hunting with dad, but by and large, I'm the one that's really into it. So nobody else in the family turkey hunts or has ever really waterfowl hunted or anything like that, and I just love it all. Of course I love whitetail hunting, but turkey season opened this week, and I
In the
haven't been
snow.
out yet. In the snow. It was miserable. But I'm here for all of it. I'm in it professionally, personally. I'm kind of jack of all trades, master of none. That's just kind of how I am. Even at work, I'm the marketing Swiss Army knife. It's not that, well, give this to Trent because Trent does this, and there's stuff I do really well, but I like to be involved in a lot of things, and it's the same with hunting, which can kind of, might say that it makes one category suffer over another, but for me, it's doing the different stuff that's fun. Right. I get bored doing the same thing every time. If all I ever did was bow hunt whitetails, I'd be bored in like 2 seasons. I'd have to go do something different. So it's nice to break it up and kind of push it around a little bit, try some different things.
Yeah.
And I know
I'm in the same boat.
I'm more into fishing than you are. I think that's, we transition kind of the fishing side. That was really kind of my gateway drug into the outdoors was those fishing trips with grandpa, just, bluegills under bobbers growing up, and anymore, what do you want to fish for? Whatever's biting. Right.
Yeah.
And most of the time stuff that's not, whatever. Fishing, not catching, right? But bass, bluegill, muskie, we got some walleye water around here, not like you do up there, but
right.
And really, I haven't had a lot of opportunity to do it because Northeast Indiana isn't known for its access to salt water, but been doing more of that here in the last couple of years, and that's a lot of fun too, and the opportunities that I'm able to get out there and do that kind of stuff. So really kind of the same thing on the fishing side. We're on the lower edge of the ice belt, so we have some really good ice fishing winters, we have some ice fishing winters where it never happens, but kind of the same thing with fishing as it is with hunting. Man, let's just go. I don't care what we're going for, let's just go.
Yeah, for fishing, it kind of stopped and started with the bobber fishing. I fished a little as a kid, but that was it. Bobber fishing for panfish in Central Virginia. I've done striper fishing on the Chesapeake Bay once. Did some decent bass fishing, but not nearly as much as a lot of people do. Started fly fishing a few years ago, but with moving around and stuff, I never really had home waters to get used to how to fly fish that area. And the area around here, like we have some great fly fishing in Western Wisconsin, down in the Driftless and stuff, but a lot of it is, at least what I've been to and tried, is a lot of tree cover, and I spend a lot of time stuck in trees. So I haven't really mastered that yet at all. So I've tried a little, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's just haven't done as much as I'd like. And now my son's getting older, he's really likes fishing. He likes, we have a little lake near the house here, and we'll go catch panfish and smallmouth, and there's nothing of note in that lake or that we've ever caught, but it's fun. He has a blast. He loves ice fishing. He really got into that. So we finally got a full setup of our own this past winter. The little pop-up shack, auger, heater, 5 or 6 different rods, and enough stuff to really have a decent setup. And we had some nice flasher from Markham, and we had enough to have some limited success, nothing too crazy. But his motivation, and this is different from mine, my motivation to hunt and fish growing up, and this is kind of a good segue into one of our next topics, is he just friggin' loves eating fish and deer. Like
Right.
he's not
Yep.
ready to hunt yet, just knowing his personality, but he loves fishing. His motivation is being outside. He enjoys that. His motivation is 100% to take that thing home and eat it. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, I've developed an allergy to fish, and it's pretty disappointing. Because I love eating the fish I catch, but now he's fine with the allergy because I bring it all home and clean it and cook it, and he gets all of it. Um,
Perfect.
so, but
Perfect.
that's what's kind of cool is he loves the food aspect of it, like he's in it,
Right.
and that's just different from how I grew up. You did it because it was a pastime and it was fun. The food was kind of a secondary motivation, and hopefully my parents don't hear this, but neither were great at cooking wild game or wild caught fish probably better than wild game, and I've
Right.
actually taught them both a lot about cooking as I've gotten older, but
Right.
so food wasn't the motivator, where that's most of my motivation and obviously all of my son's motivation for fishing. So, and like I said, that kind of segues us right into cooking. So um I enjoy cooking indoors as much as outdoors. I used to only really grill stuff because that's what you did, but I've gotten much more into like true cooking and preparation, not just cooking stuff over fire. Um, I used to work at a barbecue joint and cook pit beef for a while, and oh, you shorted out over there. I so I got to use to cooking a whole lot of food over fire for a lot of people. We had groups of up to 1,400 people, and or no, our biggest group was 4,000 people, and we cooked 1,600 pounds of meat in a day. So, um, I got to do that part. So that's how I really got started into the cooking over coals kind of thing. But I I also like cooking indoors and year round. I have regular charcoal grill. I have a pellet grill. Um, I have a fire pit with a grill grate, and I try to use all of that plus the indoor stuff. So cooking's definitely a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it, especially with stuff I killed or caught.
Yeah. Uh, to me, the kind of the outdoors and the cooking, we tackle those together. That's because
Hmm.
that's a big part of the reason. Same thing, hunting and fishing. And my boys are quite a bit younger than yours. They're about to be 2 and 4, and I had a really good season in the deer woods this year, which is not usually the case. But they both got their first taste of deer meat this year, and they're not like, especially the 4-year-old. He's not a finicky eater by any means, but deer meat has a reputation. And
Yeah, yeah,
generally speaking, you don't. All right, well, here's the deer meat for the 4-year-old, and they love it. And both of them just absolutely smashed it, and it's kind of turned into a joke as
nice.
far as we want for supper. Deer meat. We
Yeah,
we went out. We were scouting for some food plot locations just not that long ago, and a doe came out, and as we were pulling in, and he goes, "Oh, there's a deer. Let's eat it." Because he's 4, he's about to be
yeah,
4, he's 3. So that's his schema for everything. Once he's got a schema, that's it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but same thing, I had it when I worked in a restaurant when I was younger, and it was kind of one of those deals where the guy that was the chef while I was there, and it was just kind of like a country diner type thing, but he was somebody that was his retirement. He had grown, his when he was younger, he worked in like Chicago and New York and was a legitimate chef that then just moved to Lake Country and didn't really want to work too hard, and came in and had a wealth
Yeah.
of knowledge that you would not normally expect to find in random country diner in Northeast Indiana. And worked there for a while in high school, and kind of lit the fire. And I always enjoyed cooking anyway, but learned some stuff there. And then, the internet teaches everybody everything. And,
Yeah.
the explosion of kind of like Food Network and all that, and some of that, just that whole thing. So that's, man, cooking, whether it's, I'm big into smoking meat. Anybody that's
Hmm.
found me on social media, that's about half the feed is smoker and charcoal and dead pig on a smoker and all that kind of stuff. But like you said, I do a lot of the not fine dining stuff either, but I make a
Right.
pretty good jambalaya for a Yankee, and pineapple upside down cake. I can manage that
Oh
too. So
yeah.
just kind of we, and actually the only cooking competition I was ever in, we were paired up at the POMA conference several years ago, and
Yeah.
it took a legitimate chef to knock us out. And I
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
I stand by that fried catfish with the grilled peach salsa. Like
Yeah.
I think there was something there. So, yeah,
I
I mean,
liked it.
that's really, that's what if I'm not hunting, fishing, cooking, in the outdoors, the only other thing I might do is golf. And there's not a
Yeah.
lot of, I know we're not regulated by the FCC as a podcast, but there's probably not a lot of that can be talked about in family terms. So if we stick to the rest of that, that's really kind of what and how we spend our time. And just, like I said, for my part, and I kind of comfortable speaking for Will too, it's not about, hardcore ultra like into it, but there's other things I do too. And there's not just one thing that I'm into all of it. So,
Yeah.
just, not trying to tell anybody else how to do anything else. It's really just about sharing what we do know and our experiences and those stories, and hopefully having conversations with all of you about that kind of stuff too, because generally the rule I go by is if somebody tells you how great of a hunter they are, you can pretty much reverse it. Like
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
I've met and talked to and spent time with some what people would consider really great deer hunters, and by and large they tell you you can't kill what's not there, and I have the opportunity to hunt in some really great spots.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
if we all could dedicate 60 hours a week and had spots to go for where you wouldn't burn them out like that, we'd all kill
Yeah.
deer, and,
Yep.
and that's just not the case. So there's definitely stuff that we can all learn from each other, and more than anything, the stories are what makes it fun anyway. So I think that's really what we want to focus on here.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as far as general outdoors goes, I mean, yeah, I coach my son's mountain biking team. So I spend a lot of time out mountain biking, both officially as part of the team, as well as out whenever we're not doing it as part of the team. Um, Hiking, backpacking. I finally own a pickup truck for the first time as of a year ago. So we frequently load that thing down and just go find somewhere to camp. I drove it back to Virginia a few weeks ago and just slept in the bed on the way there. I drove out into northwest South Dakota with my son last year, and we camped out of the truck for a few days and did some sketchy off-roading, and we'll cover that in a podcast up here soon of me making really poor decisions in the middle of nowhere. And
Which,
why
if
I
you're going to
didn't
make
die.
poor decisions,
That's the
definitely
place
make
to do
them
it.
in the middle of nowhere.
Where there is no help or cell phone service for a long way. But yeah, so, and Trent kind of already mentioned it, but we're kind of in it for all of it, and that's what we're trying to do with this podcast, is kind of celebrate that and go over it. And our overall goals are just that, to touch on various topics and celebrate the multidimensional outdoorsman. And to help normalize that you don't have to be the ultimate bow hunter. You can bow hunt and also bird hunt and rifle hunt and fly fish, or don't fly fish. And if you're just a rifle hunter, who cares? If that's what you're doing, go nuts. So that's kind of what we want to share with this podcast, is just build up that you don't have to be any one thing to fit some weird mold. Because at the end of the day, we're all likely in it for most of the same reasons, and we're all out there to enjoy the outdoors, usually with good people, and with the chance of some really good food in the process. So,
and I think that's something that just in general the industry, because it's kind of either extreme, right? I think most guys either fall into the category of they're pretty much like us, they like to do all of it, or they are super focused on I do X. And then within the industry, then you have that segmentation.
yeah,
You don't we've just recently seen like Outdoor Life and Field and Stream, they've gone digital only because of
right.
the reach of them, which even a decade ago, that would have, if you'd have told somebody that, it'd have been crazy. But everything's getting more focused and more niche, and it's not a hunting magazine, it's a bird dog hunting magazine. And it's not a fishing
Right.
magazine, it's a bass fishing magazine or a walleye fishing magazine. And it's this hyper segmentation of everything. And I think by and large, there's probably more people that actually fall into the like to do a little bit of everything group. But it's it's tough to make money there. It's tough to manage things in that broad of a sense. So hopefully this kind of fills that void a little bit, that may or may not be there.
Yeah, and essentially, like when I started the Will to Hunt, the thing that I think contributed to its success early on was I wasn't trying to be anyone or anything special. I was just being Will, who doesn't kill big stuff ever, and if I do kill something, it's probably a doe. Oh shoot, it was actually a button buck. Like it
Right.
was. I didn't. I've killed some nice deer. I've killed some nice whatever, but that's not the norm. And what I was trying to show with it, whether I meant to from the beginning or not, is if you fall into the outdoor marketing and that you should kill a 160-inch buck every year, you're ultimately creating a lot of frustration and disappointment for the people that think that's what they're supposed to be doing, when really you should just be uh out there and enjoying it and not focusing
100%.
on that. So it's yeah, that's where we want to go, is show the reality of it and how you can do that, and it's perfectly fine, and we'll talk about it, and hopefully you'll listen.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
All right, so I think that's all we're going to cover for episode 1. Stick around for the next ones, and as we head out, we'll do this from time to time. We call it our parting shot because we both really enjoy good bourbon, or whiskey,
Or other things even.
yeah. So
I'm actually
our
going to throw a curveball right off the bat just to be contrary, because that's what I do.
Nice. And we didn't include that in the topics, but alcoholic beverages will be a topic of discussion and
They will.
potentially heated debate, but we'll see
They
how
will.
that how that spins out. So I'll lead with mine, and I'll let Trent follow with his, and then we'll close this out. So my parting shot is the Russell's Reserve Single Barrel Rye. I picked it up at the distillery on my way to Virginia, and it is, I wouldn't drink it as a shot. It is phenomenal. I'm not a huge rye guy. I've started to get into it. I'd never seen the single barrel rye until I saw it at the distillery, so I grabbed it. And there's Russell's Reserve 6-year rye that's well distributed, but I've never seen the single barrel rye. And it's higher proof. I forget exactly what it is because I didn't make a note, but it's like somewhere between 105 and 115. It's
Running hot.
spicy, but
Yeah.
it's phenomenal. It's really good, and it's not $1 million. It's like 50 or 60 bucks, which is not bad for a nice single barrel rye. So that's my parting shot for this episode.
So like I said, I'm gonna go off reserve, right? Just to jump off, because I do that from time to time. And I'm, caveat, I don't drink a lot of, I'm primarily a whiskey drinker, primarily a bourbon drinker, and I don't drink a lot of beers. I'm not a fan of the IPAs. But just recently, there's a Irish bar here, not far, and went in there because Scotch eggs sounded good actually, and they had a half pour that is a half Magner's cider and a half Smithwick's red ale, which if I'm going to drink a beer, it's probably going to be a porter, or it's going to be a red ale or something like that. And I would have never, I don't know why, I would have never thought of putting a cider and a red ale together. But you talk about
Right.
two flavor profiles that if you generally stay away from the ciders because they're too sweet,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that it really presents a very balanced tone. You get the sweetness of the cider, and it kind of plays into that natural flavor profile that your red ales have. Very, very, very good drink. That was J.K. O'Donnell's here. So if you want to mix up, your beer pour with a cider or something like that, try going half and half on a red ale and see what you run into, because that was phenomenal. That was a really pleasant surprise, and the Scotch eggs were awesome as always. So that was
Nice. I dig it. I'll take it. Going off res for the first parting shot. I expected nothing less. All right. Well, I'll kind of send us off here. Thanks everybody for listening. We have a lot of cool topics to cover. We have about a dozen episodes already planned. We just got to take the time to record them. So hopefully you stick around and check out some of our future episodes. And as I mentioned before, rate, review, subscribe, and also feel free to reach out to us on social media. Like I said, it's at The Will to Hunt on all platforms, or through wherever you're listening to this. If you have ideas, thoughts, topics, things you want covered, Kind of like I said early on, I'm a nobody that knows a few somebodies. Between me and Trent, we know a lot of experts too, so we can, if we don't get them on as a guest, we can consult some really knowledgeable people and help with just about any topic in the outdoors. So feel free to shoot us suggestions as well.
And if you
And
think
with
we're
that,
wrong about something, feel free
tell
to
us.
say so. Like,
Yeah.
this is, I don't think Will or I want this to be 30, 20, 45 minutes of us talking at you. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just starting the conversation that we can take elsewhere. So yeah, definitely reach out, give us some feedback.
All right. Well, hope to see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.